Hey Trinity family, it's Pastor Paul with my weekly word of encouragement and update. Let me ask you a question. Notice something about this map? What's different about it? Are you thinking, hey Pastor Paul, that map's upside down? Why do you think that? Why do maps usually have north at the top and south at the bottom? Ever thought about that? Am I making your brain hurt with that? I'm not trying to make your brain hurt, but the reason why north is normally at the top of the page is simply because in the history of map making, Europeans were the primary explorers and map makers. They are the ones who created the maps that we're so accustomed to seeing. North is up, south is down, west is to the left, east is to the right. That's just the right side up way of looking at the world, isn't it? In Luke 24, we read about these two disciples of Jesus, Cleopas and another disciple, and they're walking on the road to Emmaus. They're deeply troubled because Jesus of Nazareth, one that they describe as a man who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, he had been crucified on that Friday before. They were distraught because they had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Now, for some Jews in their time, the right side up way of redeeming Israel was to overthrow the oppressive Roman rule. For others, the right side up way to redeem Israel was to totally separate themselves from the Romans and the oppressive Roman rule. And for still others, the right side up way to redeem Israel was to fit in with the Romans and make no waves. As far as Cleopas and the other disciple could see, a crucified Jesus was definitely not a right side up way of looking at the world. And then they heard from some of the women in their group that this Jesus was actually alive. That same morning, that Sunday morning, the women and some others in their group had run to the tomb, and they were told at the tomb by angels that Jesus had risen from the dead. None of this made sense to Cleopas and the other disciple. But then, as they walked on the road, they were met by another. It was actually the risen Jesus, though they didn't recognize him at the time. And as Jesus listened to them, stuck in their own understanding of how things ought to be, what a right side up world would look like, he says to them, "Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" And then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, Jesus interpreted to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. The resurrected Jesus came alongside them and helped them see that the map of how they were looking at the world, which they thought was right side up, was actually upside down. Jesus needed to flip their map. He needed to show them that the way of a crucified Messiah, the way of self-giving love for the sake of others, was actually the right side up way of looking at the world. This was the only way to redeem a broken world. Like the first disciples, you and I are living in a time when we need for Jesus to flip our map. The proposed ways of redeeming this brokenness in this world, they just simply aren't working. Too many voices want to be on top. Too many voices want their ways to be north. Even within the church, the way that we are approaching the concerns of our life too often reflect the common right way up way of thinking. And then we wonder why people aren't interested in what we have to offer. We often why our own lives are no different than our neighbors. It's because Jesus needs to flip our map. What does a flipped map look like? A flipped map will look differently in all of our circumstances, but it starts with an intimacy with Jesus Christ. Cleopas and the other disciple, they listened to what Jesus had to say. They were intrigued by all that he had to say, but they didn't know who he was until he broke bread with them. This is a picture of intimate fellowship with Jesus. This is when it all started to make sense for them. And this is what we need. I hear from a lot of people these days that the warmer weather and the greater access to the vaccine are bringing about hope after the long winter. And these are certainly good things, but these are only right side up ways of gaining hope. Jesus offers so much more hope. He wants to flip your map. So spend time with Jesus. Spend time with Jesus in His Word. Spend time in worship of Him. Spend time in Christ-centered fellowship with others who also want for Jesus to flip their map. Spend time with the living and risen Jesus. Allow Him to show you how self-giving love for others needs to be expressed in your life as well. This is the message that we all need to hear now. Having moved through the celebration of Easter, rejoicing in the reality of the resurrected Jesus in our lives, we now need for the resurrected Jesus to flip our map. Allow Him to show you how self-giving love for others is the reality that needs to be realized in your life. I look forward to worshiping you with this coming Sunday. Whether it's remote or on site, we need to be people of worship together. If you're going to be worshiping remotely, I encourage you to remove the distractions from your home and keep your camera on so that you can be more fully engaged in worship. For those who have started venturing out more and will choose to worship on site this coming Sunday, I encourage you to make a reservation. That just helps us know how many people are going to be coming out. Let's join together this coming Sunday in worshiping the risen Jesus. Let Him flip your map. God bless. Love you. I'm praying for you.